Greetings once again. It is Halloween, so I've got my Michael Myers jersey on. I've got my Jason mask and Jason. Here's the thing. So, wearing the Jason mask and having the Jason machete, all I keep thinking is, why hasn't Geeky Jerseys already produced the Jason Voorhees jersey I pre-ordered, so it's going to show up probably around Christmas. Well, Christmas isn't really Jason time of year. I got my Deadpool hat on. Happy Halloween, everybody. Let's talk about last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. And I'll also throw in some talk about just how it's going in general, because I know I did a video on last week's AEW. Apparently I never posted it. I thought I did. I really thought I did. I guess I got involved with some hockey stuff and it didn't get posted, and I apologize. AEW keeps knocking it out of the park. The one thing is that because I PVR it, I am at a stage now where when I get into some of the tag teams, some of the six-man, some of the matches that I know who's going to win, I know what's going to happen, I can fast forward through parts of those matches. And that's just how that works. We had a women's match this week that seemed kind of random. And having 2 hours a week means that having a large women's roster, and they do. They have a large women's roster. If you're going to feature one match a week, some of these women are only going to be on, once a month or longer? So this Shanna woman, who's, I've heard, during the match I heard JR call her Shauna. I just listened to Simon Miller call her Shayna. It was Shanna. This is her first match. Are we ever going to see her again? That Jamie Hayter that was in last week, are we ever going to see her again? And that was a good match last week with Britt Baker. But Bea Priestley, we haven't seen her. Where's she been at? So, and again, I know people are going to say, well, AEW Dark. The thing is, that's not what's on television. So if you're going to have AEW Dark being a really important show, we need to get that second show on TV as soon as possible. And Tony Khan's been talking about it, and they are going to have a second show for AEW. The issue with that I have is it starts to undermine the reason why I'm watching AEW instead of WWE. And I mean instead of. I watched absolutely 0 minutes of Raw this week. Then I watched reviews of it, and I'm like, oh, thank God. The Rusev storyline is so bad. It is so alarmingly bad. And that they would close the show on an angle that will make people turn the show off is alarming. Then you look at the ratings for last week's SmackDown, which everybody's going to say, oh, well, it's up against the World Series. Right, but it's also the lowest rated World Series that people have seen in a while. So, baseball's kind of not really a young man's sport anymore. I don't think you're losing millennial viewers to baseball. You guys can let me know in the comment section below why I'm wrong about that. But there is some concern when it comes to baseball. And I also want to congratulate, on this channel, I'd like to congratulate the Washington Nationals on a win, because it's about bloody time. I do regret that the Montreal Expos never won one. There was that year that they canceled and didn't have a World Series. That's the year Montreal was most likely to win it. Proof that the baseball gods hated Montreal. AEW this week, what it did was it built the World Championship match well. I thought the bits in the limo with Tony Schiavone talking to Cody, I thought it went on a bit long, and I thought it was weird. I thought it was weird. They're doing all this stuff in front of the camera. The other one that I thought was weird was that the former Dean Ambrose, now Jon Moxley, storming into an office, I guess, where Tony Khan was, and you hear through the door what's going on. Okay, there's one thing I don't want to see AEW do at any point. Don't bring an authority figure on TV. Don't start making this I'm up against the world and make the world your authority figures. Now, Jon Moxley, and stating that his match with Kenny Omega is going to be unsanctioned, good. Jon Moxley's promo in the ring last night, holy crap, that is why I loved Dean Ambrose in the beginning. This is why WWE absolutely misused him, giving him a plant and making him a joke. And that was the kind of promo last night he should have been cutting in WWE the entire time he was there. And they, to me, it looks like they're positioning him as the next challenger to Jericho. I don't see Cody Rhodes beating Jericho. I think that what they're building up with the Inner Circle is good. I also want to give them props for using Santana and Ortiz properly. I don't know why I can't say Santana. It's weird. But Santana and Ortiz are being used properly. Last night they attack the Rock and Roll Express, and then they were wearing the Rick and Morty masks and attacked the Young Bucks after their match. That was being used properly right there. And that's, I don't like seeing Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton getting beat up, only because at that age, it's easy for injuries to happen, but they did take it pretty easy on them. And at the same time, they got over with the crowd in a big way. So what they're building up is this. You've got your first tag team champions, who I think a match with the Lucha Bros for the title makes the most sense, because that's a feud you want to have a big blow-off for that feud. And then Santana and Ortiz are positioned to be the next contenders. And you can have the Young Bucks involved in that as well. I don't get the feeling that the Elite, so your Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, and now I guess Dustin Rhodes as well. I don't get the feeling that they're going to be hoarding belts. I get the feeling like they're going to be the guys who put people over, that they get built up as a threat, and then they put people over. You look at Kenny Omega, his record was poor. Now he's getting wins, and he's looking good, and they're building him up so that going into the Moxley fight, I figure Moxley's going to beat him, because I think Moxley's going to be the next contender for Jericho. And I think that feud could be absolutely off the charts. I think that feud could be absolutely amazing. What they do with Jake Hager is going to be very interesting as well. He comes off his Bellator match where he's still technically undefeated, but I don't think that match ended the way he would have wanted or anybody else would have wanted either. Hager is out there. I guess you could have him in a feud with Adam Page after Page is done with Pac, or Pac's done with Page, however you want to look at that. But there are some interesting things. What it highlights, though, is in all this talk about how the tag team division's been set up and the men's division set up, the women's division is still finding its feet. And while everybody wants to point out Nyla Rose, a trans wrestler, who cares? The women's division, I think, is pretty strong. Becky Lynch came out this week on Twitter and said she could run through the women's division in 15 minutes. I would love to see Becky Lynch in the ring with Britt Baker. I would love to see Becky Lynch in the ring with almost any of the women in that company. I think that where the challenge lies is these women aren't very well known and they have to get built up. That's where things are a problem. And so, building up Riho as champion is important, and building up everybody else around her is important as well. And I think there's a lot of potential there. I think there's someone with unique looks and unique movesets. I think Britt Baker could be the huge star out of the bunch, but it's going to take time. And it took time with Becky Lynch in WWE too. She didn't look like that and act like that and have that character right off the hop. It took some time. But yeah, it was a good episode this week. Great episode last week as well. I have no complaints. I know on the ups and downs on What Culture Wrestling, the one down that Simon had, they didn't count it either. Count your downs. Don't leave that as a 0. But the Brandy Rhodes bit, I'm not sure where they're going with Brandy Rhodes either. Brandy Rhodes, and when I talk about the women's division, the potential for Brandy Rhodes is really, really strong. Now, WWE saw her just as an announcer. They never gave her any kind of push as an actual wrestler or anything. Brandy has a unique look. She is very well spoken. The biggest issue they've had with Brandy so far is, okay, is she a bad guy or a good guy? Because when she's with Kong, she's a bad guy. But when she's in the ring with Cody, her husband, who's a good guy, I don't understand what's going on here. So while I understand the shades of gray and not having just good guys, bad guys, and Jon Moxley's perfect for that, and Kenny Omega can ride that line as well, I need to understand the motivation for Brandy Rhodes. I need to understand what's going on with her. So when they show her with Cody in their everyday life and she's, doing business stuff, and then you show her being kind of crazy in the Awesome Kong thing, these two things don't really go together. So hopefully they figure out a way to make this make sense. Because I think Brandy has the potential to be megastar. I really never understood why WWE, when it was rumored that she wanted to wrestle, and they're like, nah. I couldn't figure that out. She has everything you want in a wrestler. Is she the most talented right now? No. But does that matter with WWE? No. I would argue Liv Morgan was called up by WWE before she was ready. I would argue Mandy Rose was called up before she was ready. I would argue that there are women's wrestlers in WWE right now that aren't very good wrestlers. And they're there mostly for their look and for the fact they can talk or for some other thing that they offer. And in Brandy's case, being Cody's wife, you could have done something really interesting with the two of them, but instead he was Stardust and she was a ring announcer. It's a waste. Him as Stardust was a waste. He made it work, but it was a waste. You look at where Cody is in AEW, and he seems legit. It feels like he's a legit threat to the title. But there you go. I have no complaints about this week's AEW at all. I admit I'm fast forwarding through certain matches only because we've seen these movesets, we've seen these things. We know now what we're going to get. And if it's a recorded show, I can fast forward. I will always fast forward wrestling matches. This is not something that's new. It's just I had been watching every move in every match up until this week's episode, where I'm kind of like, okay, it's these guys against these guys. Yeah, I know what's going to happen. All right. Which means I'm getting more comfortable with the product, and I'm getting to know all the wrestlers. And I'm also interested, I'll close on this. Sammy Guevara might be the most intriguing of the bunch. Sammy Guevara hasn't had a win yet on the main show. He's 0-3 on the main show. Sammy Guevara is a heel. He is in the big heel faction of Inner Circle. And I wonder what they're going to do with him. Like, does he just keep losing as a young kid learning? Or are they going to put him on some kind of a winning streak? And with some of these smaller wrestlers, like Guevara and Darby Allin, do you look to bring in like an X Division title like you see in Impact, a Cruiserweight title like you see in WWE? Do you do that and have these guys kind of paired up with each other, or do you continue to have them in the ring with guys who are bigger and then eventually we start to see some upsets? Again, I'm intrigued. We're 5 weeks in. It's a fun company. It's great to be able to watch a wrestling show about wrestling. They're starting to get promos in there. Adam Page with a promo today. Very good contract signing bit with Jericho and Cody that seemed very different. And Jericho showed again that he can get a crowd in the palm of his hand. They can cheer him, they can boo him, and he can decide what they're going to do in any given moment. When he called them hillbillies, I was like, wow. That was Jericho being Jericho, and it was just great. He is one of a kind. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding what they might do. Do you bring in a Cruiserweight title? It does feel like you need to, after this pay-per-view, you've established your world champion, you've established your tag champions and your women's champion. Now you need to have that mid-tier title where, like an Intercontinental type belt, where people are competing to move up to the next level. So you're giving some other guys something to compete for as well. The win-loss records are amazing. I'm so glad they're showing win-loss records on TV. I'm glad they've stuck to that. It makes it feel like every match is important. So if a guy loses a match, you're going, well, I guess he's not getting a title shot then. If a guy goes on a winning streak, you're like, all right, they're building this guy up. It's a really odd concept to have wins and losses matter in fights. I know, it's really bizarre, isn't it? But I'm very excited, and I am really looking forward to seeing where this goes from here. I'm not watching Crown Jewel today. No, I really don't care. I'll read the results after and have a chuckle about however they screw this up. I'm far more into what AEW is doing. Good job. Good show. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.